Hi guys, it's Alicia. I brushed my hair and I think I'm ready to do another blog video. Um, so last night I was kind of jumping around like in age and stuff like that. I was going from all the way from like 1.5 to like 13. Um, so I know like it's gonna be definitely a non-linear storytelling. I want this to be more like casual, like you come over and we have a chat. Like that's the kind of conversation to be, not like a presentation. I want it to be like this is just how I talk most of the time. And so I'm gonna try to touch on like key moments like as I remember. So I want this video to be more about my experiences at our ranch, Texas Hill Country. So we had about 100 acres. Ever since we were kids, I'm not sure if we inherited the property or my dad bought it. But it was like just south of Bandera, and it's actually like the foothills of the Rocky Mountains is what these hills are. Because if you go out like to West Texas, if you keep going west of like Kerrville, um, you'll hit like actual mountains, like El Capitan, kind of like weathered down, eroded, like all brown, that sort of thing. Especially in El Paso. I mean, El Paso is like basically in the mountains. It's the only part of Texas on mountain time. Little fun facts. Texas is pretty cool. It's got like every biome because up in like Midland, you get like red dirt and there's no water. It's like you feel like you're on Mars, honestly. Driving through Texas, like Midland, Odessa, all that kind of stuff, was pretty gnarly compared to where I was growing up, like in South Texas and like the Corpus Christi area. Anyway, so we had this ranch property. And it was like we had our own little hill. It's called Morning Star Ranch. Grace to God, never forget it. It's like it was like the Shire for me. I guess I can put it that like to make a comparison. Like it was like this magical like woodland where I would frolic around and like I would just like go out there and just sit and stare. Like that's just what I would do. Like that's what I wanted to do most of the time. I just want to walk out on my own, out to like a rocky outcropping and like overlooking the valley or something like that. Because this hill was like, dude, 500 feet might be generous. Like these were hills. Like let's be honest. Really rocky, a lot of granite, a lot of agate, which is really cool. So you get like real geodes. Sometimes you get arrowheads, not all the time, but sometimes. And there was like so many birds, like literally hundreds and hundreds. Uh, and there was a lot of cedar, so the cedar sucked up a lot of the water. So the Hondo River that was south of us was like seasonal, just based on like whenever we got the next or like latest downpour. Sometimes it was really full, like and it's like little concrete step they kind of had underneath the bridge turned to a waterfall, like this high of a waterfall, and it was just, it was super cool, like super cool. We used to swim that all the time. Um, so yeah, I would just go out there and sit all by myself. We had the deer feeders out there, so we'd see deer. Definitely javelina, definitely boar. Saw a bobcat. Definitely had mountain lions. We saw like one mountain lion track, which was pretty interesting. I remember like distinctly looking at my dad making that comparison. No bears, but I imagine like back in the day there were probably black bears that roamed that far down. I mean, it's pretty fertile land. Of course, there was rabbits and jackrabbits, and roadrunners, which is cool, and pheasant. I didn't believe pheasant came down that far. And chachalacas, which chachalacas are like we call them Mexican turkeys, basically. It's like grouse turkey kind of bird, and it's like all brown, smaller. Did have a lot of turkeys too, a lot of the gobble gobbles. Definitely ticks. Definitely a lot of hornets. I got stung by hornets, like Lord knows how many times. A lot of prickly pear cactus is kind of where I fell in love with cactus, even though I actually like fell in cactus when I was a kid. My dad said I used to call it the big ouch. That's what I called cactus. And honestly, not even a bad name. Like big ouch. Like you would understand what I was talking about if I said that to you, at least as a kid. Um, so one of the big, I'll talk about like some of the bigger moments that happened to me that I was like, huh. Like if I knew any better, if I was allowed to read stories, this would be like literally 5D master chess. If my parents did all like their harsh raising and like abuse intentionally, just so I would discover the stuff later, not be biased about my experiences. Like that is a level of chess I don't believe human beings can play. Anyway, and so I remember it's late at night. I was walking up the trail with my dad and I think our grandfather and like maybe some of his friends were like walking up behind us with the family, and they're like, so our house, we have like a white house like on stilts. I think it had nine nine like pillars, a lot of limestone too. So a lot of the stuff there was limestone, and it was this like rickety old wooden house like on top of these stilts, and they had the little staircase and the huge like front porch balcony. And you go inside, it has like all the scratchy sofas, like kind of like this material, but like a lot scratchy. It has like the geometric patterns in like dark green, and we had a cowskin rug and a fireplace. Like it was, and we had like wooden bunk beds and the little log cabin pieces. Like it was all about it. Oh my god, it's such a beautiful place. Morningstar Ranch, and I actually helped my grandparents, my mom's parents, build a house right next door, but that can be a different story. So I'm walking up the trail like ahead of my family, and I see like this pair of like golden yellow eyes, like slanted, like a dog's eyes, like looking at me from a bush off to the side, and I could hear like I could see like the vague outline. Like I knew it was a wolf. I don't like maybe if I knew any better, I would have said it was a coyote, but it was freaking big. Like coyotes' eyes are not that far off the ground. Like okay, so let's say this is the ground. Eyes are about right here. Granted, I was pretty young, so yeah, we was sitting there like like staring at me, and I was like, "Holy shit!" And so I run back. He's like, "Dad, I saw a wolf." And he's like, "Oh, okay, cool." But to this day, that image just stuck into my memory. So that happened, and then another thing that happened was this is when I really should have known I was not a boy. Like I just did not get along with the boys' mentality and state of mind. Could have been multiple reasons behind it, but I'm going to attribute this mostly to being a woman. Um, we'd set up at the deer blind. My friend had like a BB gun, and then he like, all right, guys, watch this. It was like me, it was him and I, and then like one other person. And so he like screamed super loud and like hundreds, I'm telling you, hundreds and hundreds of birds. I still remember the sight of like cardinals and blue jays and green jays and mockingbirds and blackbirds and sparrows and thrashers. We had a bunch of hawks, a bunch of buzzards. Just like it was. So I have a picture, but I felt like I was in heaven. I love birds. And then he shot into the flock, and a cardinal fell down, a male cardinal, and like one of its wings was crippled. And I remember it like walking off away, like behind the trees, and I'm like, this is how the fairies left because of attitude like this. Like, why did we do that? And ever since that day, I couldn't see as many birds. Hmm. Another thing I used to do all the time was so I was taught in fundamentalist Baptist school that Native people didn't believe in owning land, therefore it was okay for us to take it. That was what I was taught, and that they left it voluntarily. Those are the two answers. Like they saw like God's purpose in what we were doing or something. I'm serious. I'm dead serious. That's what I was taught, and I still remember it. This is private Christian school, and so I would walk around by myself and I would talk. I would it I didn't know like the words I was saying. I knew in my head what they meant, like what I wanted to mean, and so I said the sound associated with the word in English that I said in my head, but the words I spoke were "Græmur du við like like trying to match sounds with thought. Like it's hard to explain without sounding like silly and ridiculous, but it does. It's like how I do magic and stuff like that. Um, and so I used to go just like walk around. I was like, this place is so beautiful. Like talking to the Indians, like the native people that had lived there. It was like, this is so beautiful. Like, I'm just like, this is so beautiful. How could you leave this? And I remember they're like, we didn't. And they're like, oh, so I'm not being told everything. And so that was the start of like the wall cracking, the wall being the veil. That was the first crack in the veil, was that experience. And if you want to know what type of person my father is, this is the kind of person he is. And I didn't remember the story till recently when I told a friend about it. We had the hog trap down like the flat area towards the fence where I usually hung out just because I could actually like walk around behind the trees and everything like that. It's so strange to go off trail. Like it felt so old, so old. Texas Hill Country is something else. I'm telling you. I've looked for that property, Morningstar Ranch. Here, Scott. I'm still trying to find it. Would love to buy it someday. Um, Maybe in due time. So there's a hog stuck in a trap, and Dad was like on the hood of the truck on the other side of the road with his rifle, and I was there next to him, like watching. And he was just like dressed all in his hunting clothes and like his law office hat. And I mean, he tried shooting the boar, I think in the brain or something, because he like blew the snout off after like 3 shots. And I remember the boar was there like madness in his eyes, like looked at me, like made eye contact with me, as like his snout is like flapping bloody all around. And then Dad's like, just leave him, he'll bleed out. And just had to sit there and listen to him die. That's a true story. That's the kind of man my father is. And then I don't even think we even cleaned it. I think we got someone else too. Someone else that was staying there. But I remember watching the deer being cleaned and everything. That wasn't that wasn't really an issue for me. It's more of like the unbearable whiteness of so many of the attitudes, the entitlement to everything. I mean, do they walk around and talk to the trees? Some of these memories are still pretty bitter. But it's good to taste them every now and again because I remember like I've I've been through some stuff and I've had some real things happen to me, and it's good to remember that. So I'll leave it off at this, and thanks guys for listening. See you next time.